Chris Norman finally talks about Suzi Quatro when he is 75 years old. Christopher Ward Norman was born Chris Norman on October 25, 1950 in Redcar, North Yorkshire, England. His family was already into music. His father made a living as a singer and performer. And singing was not just a hobby for me from a very young age. It was a normal part of my life. When Chris's family moved to Bradford, he became a part of the lively music scene in post-war Britain, where rock and roll, skiffle and early pop were changing how young people saw themselves. Norman started playing the guitar and singing with school friends when he was a teenager. This is where he not only developed his technical skills but also the unique vocal style that would later define his career. Even when he was young, his husky, emotional and clearly human voice made him stand out from other singers of the time who were more polished or dramatic. Around the middle of the 1960s, Norman got together with friends Alan Silson, Terry Utley, and Ron Kelly to start a band. Later, Pete Spencer joined the group. The group played for years under different names, and had a hard time getting noticed. Eventually, they changed their name to Smokie, which would forever change their lives. In the middle of the 1970s, they got big with the help of famous songwriter and production team Nicky Chin and Mike Chapman. With Norman singing as the lead, Smokie had a string of international hits that summed up the mood of the time. If you think you know how to love me, don't play your rock and roll to me, I'll meet you at midnight, and lay back in the arms of someone were songs that people all over the world sang with pride. Chris Norman's singing was a big part of Smokie's success. His voice was a good mix of vulnerability and power, which gave the band's songs emotional depth and made them easy to relate to. Millions of people around the world became fans of Smokie, and tens of millions of records were sold. He was especially famous in continental Europe, Australia, and the UK. During this time, Norman not only became known as a singer, but also as an engaging frontman, whose truthfulness touched people deeply. Around the beginning of the 1980s, the members of Smokie began to feel artistically limited, after years of constant touring, recording and pressure from the music business. In particular, Chris Norman longed for artistic freedom, and the chance to find a more unique creative voice. In 1986, he had to make the tough choice to quit the band and go out on his own. A move that came with a lot of risk but changed everything in the end. Norman's move to work alone was met with instant success. His duet with Suzi Quatro in 1986, Stumbling In, was a huge worldwide hit that put him on the map and brought him to the attention of new fans. The song showed off a softer, more personal side of his singing, showing how well he could show tenderness and emotional depth. After this success, Chris Norman put out a string of solo records that solidified his image as an emotionally charged, mature artist. In Germany, Scandinavia, and Eastern Europe, Norman's songs like Midnight Lady, Some Hearts Are Diamonds, and No Arms Can Ever Hold You were very famous. In those places, Norman became almost legendary. Norman did well by following his musical instincts, while many artists have trouble after leaving a famous band. His solo work was a mix of pop, soft rock, and subtle country sounds. It often had themes of love, loss, reflection, and strength. His songs became more personal, and his shows became more emotional, showing that he was growing up and learning from his mistakes. What really makes Chris Norman stand out is how long he has lived. Even after many years since his first big hit, he has continued to tour a lot, put out new records, and played at packed houses all over Europe and beyond. His live shows are still powerful, driven by the same raw vocal feeling that drew people in the first place in the 1970s. Norman has never counted on nostalgia alone. He honors his past with Smokie, while also making new music, showing a rare balance between accepting artistic growth and honoring tradition. His voice is worn down from years of use but full of personality. It has an honesty that not many artists can keep up for such a long time. In 1994, Chris Norman was named CMT Europe's International Video Star of the Year, which was one of the highest honors of his career and a clear sign of his lasting popularity around the world. During a time when music TV was a big part of becoming a global star, the award recognized Norman's strong, easily recognizable voice as well as his ability to visually and emotionally connect with people all over the world. It was a turning point in his independent career, showing that his art would last and have an impact on people from all over the world. 10 years later, in 2004, Norman got a lot of attention again when he appeared on the German TV show Comeback on ProSieben. Norman used the show that was meant to bring together and honor legendary artists as a perfect chance to tell viewers why his music had never really gone away. The part where he sang Stumbling In with pop star Suzi Quatro was one of the most talked about parts of the show. Longtime fans were thrilled by the performance, which mixed nostalgia with new energy. It also introduced a whole new generation to the magic of his voice. When Smokie joined Norman on stage for the last song in the last episode, it was the most moving moment of the whole show. An unforgettable reunion that felt less like a TV show and more like a heartfelt celebration of their singing journey together. Norman was the main act at the prestigious White Nights Music Festival in St. Petersburg in 2019, which added to his reputation as a well-liked artist around the world. This event had a lot of meaning because it was a celebration of Allapa Gusheva's amazing 50-year career. She is one of Russia's most revered culture icons. Norman is respected all over Europe and beyond, as shown by the fact that they were picked as the main act for such an important celebration, sharing the stage with well-known singers like Level 42, Bonnie Tyler and Svetlana Loba. He gave a performance that mixed years of experience with unwavering passion. Under the bright white sky of the night, Norman once again showed that a real musical legacy isn't based on trends, but on the ability to move people year after year, generation after generation. Chris Norman's personal life has always been very different from the fame and ups and downs of his music business. It is marked by a strong sense of stability, loyalty and devotion to family. Norman married Linda in 1970, just as his work with Smokie was starting to take off. They got married before they became famous around the world. Before their concerts were sold out, before their songs were #1 on the charts, and before the constant stresses of the music business became normal. This timing was important because it meant that their relationship was based on shared youth trust and a deep knowledge of each other, not on fame or attention from the public. Over the years, Norman has often talked about how important that early pledge was, either directly or through the choices he has made in his life. In a field known for divorce, short-lived relationships, and drinking too much, his marriage to Linda has lasted for more than 50 years. Linda has been there behind the scenes the whole time, providing mental support and stability, while Norman dealt with the challenges of recording, touring, and staying relevant through different musical eras. People who are close to them have often said that their relationship is very private, based on respect rather than showmanship, and kept going by a shared desire to protect family life from the spotlight of fame. Chris and Linda Norman raised 5 kids together, and Norman has always seen that as an important part of who he is, not something that came after his success as a singer. Even though he was away from home a lot for tours and recording sessions, he made an effort to stay active in his kids' lives because he saw family time as important. Being a dad changed his mindset, giving him balance and perspective at times when work stress could have easily taken over. Many people who knew him say that his strong family background helped him become known as a grounded and approachable artist, even when he was very famous. To find a calmer and more managed space for their personal and business needs, the Norman family chose to settle on the Isle of Man in 1986. Moving wasn't just a matter of distance, it was also a meaningful act. Norman could focus on music without giving up his family life because the Isle of Man gave him privacy, peace, and a break from the intense spotlight of mainland celebrity society. Its small-town feel and slower pace fit his need for normalcy and gave his kids a chance to grow up away from all the media attention. Since he moved there, Norman has made the Isle of Man his permanent home and a place to be artistic. He continued to write, record, and tour around the world from this base, showing that being an artist didn't mean living in the middle of the entertainment business. The island was a place for Norman to get away from the pressures of fame and think about the things that had been important to him since he was a child: family, loyalty, and being yourself. At age 75, Chris Norman, the recognizable voice behind Smokie and one of the most iconic figures in British rock, has reached a point in his life where it's easy to think about the past. Years of #1 songs on the charts, non-stop touring, artistic successes, and personal struggles have given him a broad view of the music business and the people who have shaped it. One name stands out among those people with great clarity and respect: Suzi Quatro. Norman has opened up and talked at length about their relationship, the time they both lived through, and his great admiration for her for the first time in many years. In his memories of the early 1970s, Norman talks about a music scene that was rough, competitive, and full of possibilities. He says it was a very exciting time. In that world, everything was strange, and no one knew how far things could go. It became clear that Suzi Quatro was a force that couldn't be overlooked. Suzi changed things when she came along. Norman tells her that she wasn't trying to fit into a set of rules. She did everything on her own. Norman says that Quatro had an effect that went far beyond her popularity on the charts. As a female rock artist who played bass and led a tough band, she broke unspoken rules in a field where men are the norm. Some people today forget how brave that was. He says it wasn't done back then. Suzi did not ask for help, she did it now. He says that a lot of men musicians, including himself, had to change what they thought. You couldn't fire her. She had the right attitude, the skills, and the strength to back it all up. During tours, TV appearances, and business events, they often ran into each other. And Norman has happy memories of those times. He says she was always honest with people. Don't act silly or fake. You got what you saw. He also says that Quatro had a unique mix of toughness and comedy. She was strong and confident, and she knew how to laugh at herself. The two of them together are strong. Norman also talks about the stress that Quatro was under behind the scenes. There were pressures that fans didn't always see. People had to work twice as hard to pay attention to her. He says that's the truth. He says that a lot of artists at the time were marketed and controlled, but Quatro worked to stay true to herself. The woman knew who she was and wasn't going to let anyone change that. Norman pauses when asked why he has decided to be so honest now, at age 75. Being old makes you honest. And he thinks you don't need to worry about how things will go. You just want things to be fair on the record. For him, being fair means recognizing Quatro's strength and impact. He is adamant that Suzi deserves to go down in history. Not as something new or different for women, but as a rock star. Norman also thinks about how rivalries and mistakes that used to seem important have become less important over time. He says, we were all trying to stay alive and do well. That can sometimes lead to distance or silence. He now says that there is only respect. I'm glad I went through that time with Suzi and other people like her. She made everyone better. Norman talks at the end of his speech as both an artist and a history buff. When new artists ask me about that time, I always talk about her. He says, look at Suzi Quatro. Look at how brave she is. When Chris Norman writes about a fellow pioneer who helped change the way rock music could look and sound, he does so with the weight of experience and the clarity of reflection that comes with being 75 years old.